Okay, now, Klappa, where is it?
Good.
There we go. I'm sweating. Okay.
All right, here we go. So this will be 09-13-16 Backstage in 3, 2, 1. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I didn't know if I was running. I'm so sorry. Try it again.
Hang on.
I'm so sorry. 09-13-16 Backstage in 3, 2, 1.
Wow, that took me back to the backseat of a Ford in high school.
I don't want to know about that.
Well, slow news week, huh, boys?
Not much going on here.
You know, it's one of those news weeks that really makes you feel your age. Because I'll tell you what, right now, my political memory goes back so far. I remember when questions about Hillary's health was a right-wing conspiracy.
Yeah, well, it still
Well,
is.
that was like a week and a
half.
half ago.
I want to print up T-shirts that say "deplorable" on it, and I really do. I think we need to own it the way. Remember, it was Agnew, wasn't it? The
nattering nabobs
of negativity. Yeah, we'll just own it. I have to tell you, this has been so overwhelming that I did not pick a main topic or a membership topic because I figured we'd all be wanting to talk about this, so maybe we should just hash it out.
Oddly enough, I had the same struggle. I was just telling Steve before you got in the captain's chair there that it just seems like there's only one news story this week, and you can't escape it.
I agree. Do I have members this week?
You do.
Okay. All right. So what I think I'd like to do for members is I want to talk about who is it? Oh, hey, Linda, how are you? I want to talk about the fact that for members, because then we'll hash out the main one. I want to hash out the fact that this alternative media is not the alternative media anymore. The formerly mainstream media is the alternative media now. Actual news is coming from guys with webcams.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are doing the actual reporting. They're the ones with the actual videos. They're the ones that are getting out the signal, and some of them are getting 1,000 hits, and some are getting 1,000,000 hits, and some are getting more.
I've seen 3 angles on Hillary Clinton's wobbly thing, and I don't think any of them were shot by TV crews.
Yeah, you know what the difference is?
They were not.
The bloggers, the guy with iPhones, whatever, they're not corralled behind the ropes.
Yeah.
Yep. And did you notice the way? Well, we'll get into the details in a minute. So for the members, I think I'd like to just again to thank them and ask them if they have any friends, because this is a going concern. You know, they used to say, is your business succeeding? It's a going concern. Yes, it's on its way. This is not something that should get smaller after the election, regardless of how the election goes. There is no more evidence than today in terms of how complicit CNN is. I'm working on a firewall right after this, and I'm basically going to call it the Clinton campaign conspiracy, because it is a conspiracy. It is it's the definition of a conspiracy. She's very, very sick. We can talk about that maybe in the other episodes. But surely, Uma Abedin knows, and Chelsea knows, and Bill knows, and most of the DNC knows, and a lot of CNN reporters know, and the Secret Service knows, and I wouldn't be surprised. How can James Comey not know? If we know, then how can the FBI director
and Bill, even
not
if
know?
you take it on its face, let's say, without delving into speculation about what might be wrong with her, or listening to various people's theories on the internet, just take it on its face. She's diagnosed with pneumonia, okay? We also hear from the campaign, because this is kind of sort of self-justifying behavior, there's like a lot of people, several people on the campaign also came down with the same thing, okay? So so therefore, it sounds like a contagion of some sort. And then
Typhoid Hilly.
Right. And then she
we
goes out and kisses a kid. Yeah.
Then we see her out in the public, like touching a child. I'm like, oh yes, that takes a village to infect a child, apparently.
No, just one former first lady.
So I think for the members, I think that the whole thing is that this isn't just what we do here, and what everybody is doing out there is not just a joke, and it's not even what it was 10 or even 5 years ago. This is where actual news is happening, and this is where history is being changed. If it hadn't been for independent news people like us, I never considered myself a journalist, but we're starting to look like them. if it weren't for this, there would have been no footage. CNN, if they'd had it, they would have just buried it. How much footage does CNN actually have that's buried?
Bill, when we did the segment last week on the 4.5 minute coughing fit, what did I say? I said it sounded like when I had walking pneumonia about 10 or 12 years ago when I was coughing up whole raw chicken breasts.
We have witnesses to that.
And that's what it sounded like. And sure enough, 6 days later, 5 days later, whatever it was, oh yeah, and by the way, she's fine. She's totally fine. And pneumonia.
Well, and did you see the MSM attempt to immediately say, oh, this is not such a big deal, by saying, while Newt Gingrich was being interviewed and talking about Hillary Clinton's coughing fit, he himself began coughing. Well, I actually listened to the audio of that. So if you saw the Hillary Clinton or heard the Hillary Clinton tape, she coughed for 3 or 4 minutes, okay? And she cannot get control of herself. If you listen to the recording of Newt Gingrich, it sounds like he's briefly clearing his throat. I mean,
right.
it was like...
Exactly.
That was it.
And if Hillary coughed for 4 minutes one time...
Yeah.
You could just say, well, she just swallowed water down the wrong pipe. It's a very, very irritating thing to do, and that's they think that we're idiots. First of all, they think that we're evil for inventing the stuff, and then when we come up with all the evidence, the actual physical evidence, then they think that we're idiots.
Oh well, did you see
Newt Gingrich coughed once?
Yeah, the new Pravda came down on Twitter by midday yesterday, Colorado time, which was, well, this just proves how tough she is going out on the stump when she has pneumonia.
She's so tough that she can't get into a van?
Yeah.
Well, and
she's so
I mean, I know you guys are probably, our viewers mock me because of my gentle sensitivity, and I'm always in touch with my feminine side. But I got to tell you, when I watched that video and I saw a woman who's running for president of the United States, who's the major party candidate, begin to lose her balance and then literally just completely lose control of her legs and have to be dragged into the van, I had like this empathetic reaction, like, oh my goodness, that elderly woman is really in bad shape, and they just kind of stuff her in the van and cart her off. I felt compassion for her.
She needs to stop doing what she's doing and spend some time with her grandkids before she kills herself.
I felt it too, Scotty. I felt it too, and it lasted about a half a second. And it was really it was the same way as any other animal going down. It's like, I don't want to watch that. But after half a second, I realized she knows how sick she is. The Secret Service agents around her know how sick she is. That doctor who attends her all the time knows how sick she is. Bill knows how sick she is. Chelsea knows how sick she is. The DNC knows how sick she is. There have been unconfirmed reports going back to the debates with Bernie Sanders when she came out late that she was lost, confused, dazed, sitting downstairs in the back, out of breath. There's all this stuff going on, and the person that is keeping her in this lie is primarily her. So I got a lot of after firewall ground I don't want to step on, but I think there's one thing I can probably do in both places. So for my main one, I want to do this. The Clintons are not capable of telling the truth. They're just simply not capable of telling the truth. Under any adverse circumstances, they just lead with the lie, and they've been doing it for 30 years. And here's what I mean by that. Think about the way you have to think about the way that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and the Democrats now, because they're the same thing, work is they look at this as a ratchet. It's like a ratchet lie. So, for example, she has a coughing fit. Well, she just had a sore throat, or she just swallowed water the wrong way. Okay, now she's coughing 5, 6, 7 times. Oh yeah. Oh well, that's obviously she's just had a bad allergy. So now she's coughing 5, 6, 7 times, and she's wobbly and a little weak. Well, she has dehydrated. She was dehydrated, and then she freaking falls down. And everybody's saying this diet. No one's going to buy dehydration anymore. It's 79 degrees at 9:30 in the morning. She's not sweating. Nobody else is sweating. I've had heat stroke before. I don't.
Oh yeah.
It's not dehydration.
Yeah, but
so
Steve
they have
knows
an hour
the morning
to think about
after
it.
you're often dehydrated, even if the temperature is moderate.
Exactly. So then they go to pneumonia. But this is the point that needs to be I think really made, is that the Clintons will lie, and when they're caught on the lie, they will back up and tell the next least damaging lie.
I dare you to believe this lie.
Yeah. So in other words, it's like it's this retreat. Here's the lie. Well, we've broken through the lie. Well, in that case, here's the new lie. Well, we'll break through that too. Well, here's the new lie, right? I turned in all my emails.
Would you believe
well, you didn't.
pneumonia?
Yeah. Well, you didn't turn on all your. Well, all of the emails that I didn't have any classified emails. Well, yes, you did. Well, they weren't marked classified at the time. Yes, they were. Well, everybody else does. You see what I mean? It's just like. it's just every time you break through the minimally damaging lie for them comes out, and then every time they break through, they never go to the truth. And you know what's so ironic about this is that if they did go to the truth, if Hillary has something serious, unless it's Parkinson's, and I happen to think it is, but if she has a serious medical condition and she were to just come out as an actual human being and say, listen, I've got this serious medical condition. I'm no spring chicken, you know. I'm 69 years old, and being on the campaign trail is grueling. But this is the serious condition. I've got the catheter and all the rest of it, right? I'm doing it because I love the country. I think it's just been important. People be falling down out of sympathy for her.
We've seen this time and time again too.
They can't do it.
And Bill, I have an alternative theory, which I'm not going to explore here because I don't want you to be ready for it when we record the show. So, but I do have an alternative theory that is perhaps less nefarious, if not less concerning.
Okay.
Ooh. I'm intrigued.
Well, since we're this is sort of a backseat. Well, first of all, what do you want to do, Scott? I want to do for membership the new media thing, and for my. I think we're all going to be talking about this week.
I'm only going to be talking about Hillary tangentially this week. Believe it or not.
Oh, okay. What are you going to do?
I want to talk about. I hosted a segment, I guess, about a month ago, saying, "Look, Donald Trump, you've got to start running a professional campaign if you want to turn this thing around." And by golly, here we are a month later, and he has. I'm not taking credit for it, mind you, but he's actually starting to run a professional campaign, and I think the best sign of it was this morning. He went on Fox and Friends, and they were asking him, of course, about Hillary's health, and instead of getting in the dig, instead of going over the top, instead of going for the insult, he said, I hope she gets better, and I look forward to meeting her at the debates.
Perfect.
Boom.
Perfect. He's learning slowly. Maybe he realized how far down he was, but for the last month with the trip to Mexico and then the trip to the black church and 3 solid speeches, he's starting to learn how to act presidential.
He looks the part for the first time. Yeah.
6 months ago, if Hillary Clinton had gone down, he would have said something like,
6 weeks ago.
Yeah, 6 weeks ago. I've got more stamina than that after I've been up for 4 days in visiting China. This woman's not fit to be president. Yeah. To come out and say, I hope she feels better as soon as possible. Look forward to seeing her at the debates. That's presidential. That's what it's supposed to
when you
sound
still
like.
haven't released your own medical records, I think that's also a self-interested answer, too, to basically say, I don't want to feed the fire here of wanting to find out what's wrong with potentially with the presidential candidates.
But the point is, there are things a president or a would-be president has to do and say in order to not squander the trust you're trying to earn for that office. Trump has just been the expert of bullying people into submission to win the primaries, but then throwing it all away at Clinton because you can't do that in the general election. You just can't, and it was showing in poll after poll after poll. He starts acting presidentially, starts sticking to the script, he starts saying the things that a president has to say, and boom, those numbers are starting to turn around.
Well, I still think that we're giving him extra credit because of his previous bad performance. And I think right now, those of us who are hopeful that something will turn around, that he'll change, I think the basic, I will summarize the response by Republicans who are hoping to recapture the White House as going, Donald Trump, such a big boy.
Well, yeah, but Scott, the thing you have to remember, the position is less important than the trajectory when it comes to a general
exactly
election.
Right. Number one.
I agree. And for Donald, this is great.
And I'll go further than that. I'll say, look, this may be the sign, what Trump is doing, this may be a sign of actual, genuine intelligence because, and this is really important, I think, that people don't talk about very often, because up until the primaries, up until running for president, the smart business play for Donald Trump was to be flamboyant, obnoxious, arrogant, and loud. Put his name over everything. As I've said before, there's tens of thousands of high-end real estate developers in this country, and only one of them we know the name of. Yeah. Only one. Yeah. And every time he's on a reality TV show that is I know how these things work, these reality TV shows. I know how they work. There's a team of producers telling them what they want to see because it's more interesting. You got to be more gruff. You got to be more vulgar. You got to be more Donald. You got to give us more. You got to give us more. You could make the case that he's learned how to be as obnoxious as he is, because he certainly is. I'm not trying to say that's not true.
No, and he's always been a dick.
And he's learned how to shoot from the hip and say these outrageous statements. He has learned how to do that because it's been in his best interest to do
Sure,
it.
it worked.
And now he suddenly realizes it's not in his best interest to do it, and he seems to be changing.
And I think he may be coming around. Who knows? He could turn around in 72 hours before we get this thing live on the internet. But
Let's go up today.
He is. I think he may be coming to the conclusion that, hey, I had to be over the top all the time to get to the big dance. But now I'm in the big dance, and I no longer have to justify my presence here, and I can just be like a normal potential president of the United States.
I just had a thought, and that's why I'm laughing, because it's a good one, but I got to save it for the conclusion tomorrow. I'm not going to share it today.
And a lot exactly along the lines of what we were saying a minute ago about Hillary, if she would just come out and say it. If she just come out and said it, people would actually have sympathy for her. If Trump were able to do something like that, where he said, "Listen, I've said some things that I regret, and I've said a lot of things that are off the cuff, and this is the business I know. This is how it works in the world of New York real estate." But it is clear to me that this is a different job, and that this requires a different approach. And all of my objectives are the same, but I'm certainly feel like I'm making a major effort in learning what's appropriate for the role. I think that when you admit these things, they go away. They become they're your enemy's weapons until you acknowledge them, and then they become your strengths.
Yes.
When you're writing a character for, even if it's just a stupid action movie, audiences want to see an arc. They want to see growth. They want to see change. They want to see the hero overcome something. You don't just show up Mr. Perfect and end Mr. Perfect. Otherwise, nothing has really happened.
Yeah.
Correct. And when you admit weaknesses in front of people, when you admit weakness, that's a sign of strength. And that's why Hillary will never admit weakness, because she's so insecure.
Strong.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
all right. So what about you, Scotty?
I will. I think based on our conversation here, I had an inkling of doing this anyway. But when you're looking at, let's pretend that none of this stuff has happened. That Donald Trump has not been withholding his health records. That Hillary Clinton has not had public spasms of various kinds. Pretend none of that happened. We still have two of the oldest presidential candidates who've ever run for the office. And that naturally raises the question. I mean, normally the vice presidency isn't worth a warm bucket of spit. But in this case, I think it would be valuable to do a show where we said, let's look at President Pence and President Kaine.
I was going to ask.
Oh, absolutely. I've been thinking that.
Glenn Beck came out the day we're recording this and basically said a vote for Hillary Clinton is a vote for Tim Kaine. And he's not saying that Hillary is going to pass away, but he's just saying that she's in bad shape, and you have to consider the consequences of that. So, what are we looking at if, God forbid, something should happen to either one or both of these candidates, either before the election or once one of them is elected to office? What does the country have to look forward to if this person is not just kind of a lady in waiting, just sitting there, going to diplomat funerals?
Can you give us? I was just going to say, Scotty, in your segment, would you be able to give us? Not that it matters anymore, of course. It's an archaic kind of a fun thing to hang on the wall, like any other portrait. Can you tell us what the Constitution says about this kind of thing? What is the actual election law? If a candidate after the nomination drops out, what happens?
Yeah, and I think that has not to do with the Constitution, but rather with party rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at that point, as far as the Constitution's concerned, a candidate for vice president is nobody.
So what happens but we remember from the Torricelli case, which is the first example I can remember of the Democrats simply not caring about the law. There's the law as plain as day, and they said, yeah, but it doesn't work to our advantage. The voice of the people need to be heard. And they just simply inserted a candidate illegally.
At this point, it becomes very difficult because early balloting is kicking in, and in many states within the coming weeks, and so just yanking somebody from the ballot doesn't really work, and you can't say, well, a vote for Hillary Clinton is actually a vote for Tim Kaine.
Make me so happy.
It really,
if all of those, if those early votes, get out there and vote months in advance, so that you can vote months in advance, and then vote again on election day.
I mean, imagine this scenario. Hillary Clinton has to drop out because she's not feeling well, and so then Tim Kaine, essentially they step up and they say, okay, now Tim Kaine's our nominee. But Hillary Clinton already got a bunch of early votes, and so in effect what happens is Hillary Clinton plays spoiler to Tim Kaine winning the election.
Here's what's interesting about this. This just occurred to me. She's very ill, and she's getting worse, and she has to get worse because I'm going to talk about this a little more in the firewall, but you got to think about this. Whatever the cause is, it doesn't matter what the cause is. If it's a cold, the more stress you're under, the worse any kind of illness is. I think it's much, much more. I know it's much more serious than that. But as the episodes of her on-camera failing increase, that raises the pressure on her, raises the stress on her, which makes it more likely for her to fail again, in the future. So the point I had here was a wonderful point. I've just completely forgotten it. So why don't you go ahead and finish up a little bit?
Let me just throw out something that occurred to me, because immediately I thought, imagine this in any other scenario with somebody like with a presidential sort of character. I mean, we haven't seen somebody at this level of public life have to be manhandled like this since FDR. I mean, we haven't seen this since he had to be helped out of his wheelchair. And even then, FDR made sure that nobody got pictures of that.
Yes, but FDR's illness did not inhibit in any way his mental ability.
Yeah, it was polio. Well, in that last year, it got kind of rough for him. But
that could have been senility.
The example that I think of is Woodrow Wilson's second wife, Edith. I've forgotten her last name. Well, I don't think she ever adopted his name. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, she was president of the United States.
She ran the government. She was president of the United States for months.
Yeah, exactly. He had a stroke. She determined who could see him, what he got to see. She pretty much ran the executive branch for the last year of his presidency, and it's one of the reasons why we have the 25th Amendment on succession, because it was rushed through in kind of a panic after JFK was assassinated, because everybody panicked in Washington about the idea of what if Kennedy had just been brain dead, and you've got the nuclear football or whatever the device was in 1963, and you've got a president who's incapacitated. Where does the legal authority to launch the nukes go to in that instance? So they kind of rushed through this amendment in the wake of his assassination. But let's say you've got President Clinton incapacitated. Is Bill, as frail and hoarse as he sounds these days, going to play the Edith Wilson role, or is Congress going to or is the cabinet going to step up and report to Congress that the president is incapacitated? We could have a real crisis here. Or are they going to say, Kane's going to run the show while Hillary recovers? Those are really the three options I see.
Her temporary incapacitation.
I remember the point I was going to make, Scott, because you're talking about the secession issue, or succession issue, I suppose I should say. Maybe both, the way things are going. Here's what it is. If she is forced to drop out, and that's looking more likely, the buzz on the street is, and I certainly think this would be the way they would call it, is that the DNC would basically ask Joe Biden to step in. That Biden would be the nominee, and he would be top of the ticket. And here's what's interesting to me about that. Bernie Sanders had a huge amount of support from people, a huge amount. He took a lot of those votes, and he lost fair and square, right? He lost fair and square. No, good point.
That's what you want people to believe, Mr. Establishment. Go ahead.
No, but you're right. The Wasserman Schultz things, no, you're absolutely right. But he was outvoted. Let's put it that way, okay?
Yeah.
He was outvoted. He didn't have the delegates that Hillary did. And many of the Bernie people are still so angry at Hillary that they won't vote for her anyway.
Yeah, they will.
But most of them understood, okay, look, it's a contest. We nearly pulled it off and we didn't do it. So we're Democrats, we'll vote Democrat.
Yeah.
But I wonder what's going to happen to the Bernie Sanders supporters who are not usually very, very, really keen on understanding how this government works. What are they going to do if Hillary drops out, and instead of putting Bernie Sanders at the top of the ticket, who won all of these nominations and primaries in states, they go with Joe Biden, who didn't run in a single one of them? I think if I was a Bernie supporter, I think I'd be off the train.
The Miss Universe runner-up gets to do the shopping mall appearances if Miss Universe is ever incapacitated.
Yeah, and what about the women vote if she's
gone? I mean, that's her want to see campaign. Joe Biden in the swimsuit portion of the competition.
Ooh. Anyway, it's an interesting news day.
Yeah. So, Stephen, now that we've milked this topic of every possible angle, what would you like to do for your show?
We did mine already.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Trump who listens, the guy who is campaigning like a grown-up now.
Sorry.
It's such a memorable topic. Do I need to change topics here?
No, here's what was happening, because we were interacting, and I didn't. There was no clean line of demarcation.
That's right. We never handed the ball off.
Well,
so.
I blame the guy hosting this mess.
I do too.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I always blame him. He's the worst.
I have a lot of fun writing those headlines, and maybe we'll call this the Trump Whisperer, or
I
Trump who listens
love it.
All right, boys. Well,
So
I'm going to put this up right away. And this week, this week for our members, I'm making a point. Scott's News Actually show, which he's done pretty much every week. This particular week is better than the average, and the average is very high.
Oh, nice.
So it kind of inspired me this week. So I just tell the members first. I'll probably send out a newsletter. I think during this week, what I'm going to do all week is show members-only content out on the Facebook page and make them available to non-members, so they can see a time over target, they can see a Nexus report, they can see a News Actually, and I think I'll let them see this Backstage show too. So I know our members have said many times, hey, we like the members' benefits, but what we really want is a bigger tent here. So hopefully they won't mind if we do that once or twice a year.
So just for because I don't know whether you guys will want to talk about this on our members-only pre-production show like this. So I'm going to pretend we're signing off right now, and then I want to tell you something else. So that's it for today's show, folks. For Bill,
okay, guys.
Steve, and Scott, thank you for watching.
Sounds like a good week, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now, so what I want to talk about is I was contacted by a college student. I don't know how old he is, and I don't know him previously, but he is from a local university here, and he said he wanted to talk with us about all kinds of subjects that we're interested in, like freedom and capitalism and all that kind of stuff. And he wanted to like get an interview so he could do a paper or a project or something like that. And I wondered, I want to screen him first, but I thought, I wonder if I should have a little chat with him, and maybe we could do we could do this on video. We could capture this
Absolutely.
on video.
I'd love to.
And then if it's, I wouldn't go, streaming live, because I don't know if the guy is up to that level of pressure, dealing with the brilliance of us, live like that.
Wow, that's a low bar.
Thank you.
60 watts of talent between the three of us, boys. It's not anything to sneeze at.
It's actually 7 watts with those low wattage bulbs, but they say it's like 60. But anyway, so I if it's okay with you, I'll get back to him, and I'll see if I can initiate a Skype call with him, just he and I briefly, to see if he can handle that, and maybe even do the QuickTime recording on his end, and then we can cobble it together.
Well, and let's put that up. I mean, the content is content. It's not like we're limited to one thing a day. The more content we put out, the better we look. And we've got tens. I think we certainly have thousands, if not tens of thousands, of entries now at BillWhittle.com. And Scott, and you too, Steve. Anything you want to do off of the off of the Insta Pundit or the PJ Media Vodka Pundit dime, just trot it on out, and we'll put it up there.
I have been trying to figure out
I'll
something
put up
extra to
anything on that
do,
website.
but between my one son in gymnastics and my other son in football, I have had zero free time for like the last 6 weeks. It all gets easier in October. It'll get easier after the election.
No, it's never getting easier, buddy.
It gets easier.
Never,
Okay, folks.
ever going to get easier.
I'll have time to drink again.
Good. It's going to be an interesting week. 7 weeks election, and interesting day tomorrow when we start taking apart this thing, because people don't care when she's responsible for Benghazi. People don't care about the email things. They don't think it's important because there's just too many details. But video is video. Video is video, and nobody can look at that and not go, oh, okay, now.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right. So that's what's going to bring her down finally, is video evidence. It's almost as if there was a press corps. If those two citizens hadn't been standing there, we wouldn't have known about it.
It's a citizens press corps.
If you would like to be one of those citizens, we'd love to have you over at BillWhittle.com. We're growing slowly and steadily thanks to your continuing support. Shows like this are made possible exclusively through the membership of BillWhittle.com. And if you want to be part of not just this program or this production company, but if you want to be part of what is clearly becoming the actual news media in this country, not the alternative news media, the real news media. If you want to be part of what actually is getting the actual story out to the American people rather than suppressing it, we sure would love to have you as a member over at BillWhittle.com, and just hit the membership button. We'd be more than happy to see you, and we'll get you some special programmings, and we'll treat you real nice. Behind your back, anyway. Are we done? We're off the air, though,
really
right?
is.
I mean, that ought to hold
this
those
is
little
Yeah, we've been
bastards.
off the air for a long time, so pay no attention to everything you just heard for the last 3 or 4 minutes.
We take the tailings and we'll just shuffle it out there.
I
wasn't paying attention where you
They'll
figure
watch
that.
anything. Yeah, they'll watch anything. Okay. All right, boys. No, seriously, it's a hell of a week, and it's going to get weakier. So I will see you lads tomorrow at 11 Pacific.
Indeed.
Alrighty. Now I'm stopping the
All right.
recording.
All right, I'm too. Push the button, Frank.